Hi, this is the Journey Life podcast. Well, let me change that for a minute. This is the Design Your Life podcast. I am moving between, do I keep these life coaching things on the Journey Life, or do I make it Design Your Life? I really love Design Your Life as life coaching, and even though I think my life coaching is spiritual, I think that some people just don't like the life coaching part of me going through the scriptures and me talking about these things. So we'll see. The things that are like the most are usually spiritual things, not life coaching things. Although I love some of the life. Well, I love all that I do. You know what? That's not even true. I don't love everything that I put up out, but I like it a lot, and some stuff I like a lot. This stuff I've been doing just recently on the article I put out on the eggs. I really liked it. This is like part two of the egg thing. It's titled, I'm going to send out an email. It's titled, Did You Hear the One About the Egg in the Car? Now, in order to get some of what I'm talking about, you're going to have to go read the article that talks about the $7 carton for a dozen eggs versus the $700 and something a month payment for a car. And in that article, I do talk a bit about, that your brain is always doing something when it comes to everything that your eyes and your ears are putting into your brain. Your brain is sitting in a dark box called your skull, and it is fed information through what you hear and what you see, and actually also what your body is feeling. If you get poked or stabbed or shot or you fall down, then your brain is information is being relayed to that. So what I want to talk about today, and since I want to do it, that's what I'm going to do, because there's nobody here to stop me from talking about that. So why does the price of eggs seem more important than the price of a car payment? And again, our brain is doing something. It's not just sitting there. We're not just concentrating on the price of eggs, and we're not just talking about the price of eggs, and we're not just bothered about the price of eggs instead of car payments, just because that's the way it is and there's nothing we can do about it. There's reason that these things are happening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about those things. And I'm going to talk about those things because most of us Christians want to be financially free. I don't know anybody that would say, I love being in debt. I love not having enough money. I love not being able to repair my car or my house. I love the Houston heat and I don't need air conditioning. I love the Canadian winters and I don't need heating in my house. I don't know anybody that would say that. So I want to talk about this problem because what our eyes see and our ears hear is what our mind considers to be the most important. That's kind of what you're going to have to take away, hold on to that this entire time. What our eyes see and our ears hear is what our mind considers to be the most important thing. It doesn't mean it's the most important thing. And our eyes and ears are hearing a lot more about the price of eggs, all right, than it is about the car payment. And I'm going to tell you why that is. And the reason that's important is because if you solve the egg problem, if you're like, they went up to $7, but I found eggs for $2 a carton, again, go refer to the article I wrote that came out earlier this week. If you solve that problem, if you take your egg cost from $7 down to $2 a carton, you will never solve your financial problem. However, should you solve the car payment problem, you will be really getting a lot closer to solving the financial problem. Okay, so if you tackle the $7 a carton problem, or you tackle the $700 a car payment problem, which one's going to help you the most? You don't even have to answer that, because I just told you want to solve the car payment problem. Okay, so we're going to talk today about what the brain does, why we concentrate on eggs and not on car payments. And I would say that I'm going to go repeat myself in a different way. So a lot of Christians are praying for a miracle in their finances, but what they really need to do is start applying some math. A lot of Christians are praying for a miracle in their finances, but what they really need to start doing is start thinking about what they're thinking about and taking those thoughts captive and using math to help them do that, okay? All right, I'm going to give you 6 reasons. And sometimes while I'm discussing the 6 reasons that I've written down, I discover a 7th reason, okay? Because in these podcasts, I'm not just telling you, I'm exploring. I've gone and explored things. These aren't things I just think about. I have thought about them. I have studied these things. And then I put the things that I've studied in life coaching. Last year, I think, I did a lot of study on the neurobiology, which was super interesting. And I don't know everything about it, but it's helpful to going and deciding what your brain is doing. So there's 6 things. There might be 7. Who knows? Well, we will know when we get to the end of this. All right. So one of the reasons, the first reason I'm going to use is eggs are something we use every week, sometimes multiple times a week. And every time you walk into the store, bam, right there, big old price, $5.75, $7, for a dozen eggs, and your mind is right there. You know it all the time, every week. You're putting in their carton maybe twice a week. You're taking them home and you're using them. So that price tag is staring you in the face every day. But your car payment, you actually often, most of you don't even see it, right? It just slides right out of your account, kind of sneaky, kind of like a little ninja getting there, out of sight, out of mind. You made a decision last year or 2 years ago or 3 years ago or 4 years ago to make this big car payment, and you do it. You don't even think about it. So it's how often we see it and how often we feel about it. It's one of the reasons why we are focused on eggs instead of car payments. So that's number 1. Number 2, none of these are going to be very long. That's not true. One of them is going to be very long that I really am intrigued by. And I think you're going to like it too. That's number 4. But number 2 is, and here's the other thing. We expect car payments to hurt. Oh man, I got a car. I'm driving it every day. I signed on the dotted line. I made a huge commitment. I thought about it. I studied. I researched. And we have this perception that we have control over these things. We have an expectation that a car payment is going to hurt, that a car payment is going to be larger than eggs. But eggs, come on. Eggs are supposed to be cheap. That's what's for breakfast. Where's the eggs? That's what's for breakfast. That's the comfort eggs, eggs Benedict, scrambled eggs, an egg frittata, an omelet, all those things, eggs. That's grandma's recipe. That's my favorite recipe. So when the price of eggs go up, it feels like the world is taking away a little bit of our daily joy, and we don't like it, okay? What we don't understand often, which our brain does not even help us be aware of, we have to intentionally be aware of this, is that car payment is taking away a lot of your joy of financial peace monthly, unseen, like that ninja from number 1. All right, so number 3 is kind of a little bit from number 1 now that I'm saying this, but when you're standing in the grocery aisle and you're looking, and when's the last time you looked at eggs? It's amazing. You can get so many different kinds of eggs. I thought for a while there was just eggs and then organic eggs, but there's eggs that haven't been there's eggs with chickens that haven't been in a cage. There's organic ones. There's ones with no steroids or hormones, but they're not organic. Then there's other ones that are brown. Then there's white ones. And then there's I think it's Eggland's Best that are higher in some sort of good something in them. I looked at them a week or 2 ago when I was thinking about this article and jotting stuff down. And, but anyways, the eggs are right there in front of you. And you going there, it's on your list to get eggs, and you're getting eggs, and you think that you know exactly how much that dozen eggs are going to cost you, so you can't miss it. So you're always I can't believe the price went up. But with cars, again, that damage was done a long time ago, so it's not visible to you. You might have had a really hard time sitting in that sales office buying that car, writing down that putting your signature on that. I'm going to get this car. I'm going to get this $712 a month payment. And you rationalized it, but you thought it through. And then you just have banked it back there because you told yourself it's a necessary evil and I'm going to live with it. But what you don't do is you don't do the math. So number 4, this is the one that's going to be a little bit longer. This is a psychological anchoring. It's called psychological anchoring. You can just say it's anchoring. And anchoring is something I just learned about in the last year when I was reading something about the wildfires in Montana, and it said how many tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of acres had been burnt. in Montana. I was like, that must be like the entire state. I've traveled through Montana. I thought this is awful. But then in my mind, anchored, every time you hear 100,000, that's a huge, huge number. Okay, when it comes to property, I've only ever been on, I grew up on 2 acres, so I don't have a lot of a concept of 100,000 acres. So in my mind, 2 acres is a good size. 100 acres is huge. So hundreds of thousands of acres is a lot. So in my mind, it was anchored. Okay, I have an anchor for what a piece of land is, but I have no concept of what a huge piece of land is. Okay, so people, you and me, have a psychological anchor for what eggs should are supposed to cost. And those anchors are always based on what? Past years when eggs were cheaper. When eggs were cheaper, none of us go, oh my gosh, eggs are only $5. They were $6 last year. Eggs are only $4. They were $5 last year. It's always on time when eggs were cheaper. And when that expectation is broken, it triggers a stronger emotional response. Again, you're sitting right there in front of the eggs. You see a carton of eggs and you see the price. They're not hiding it. You're not waiting until you get home. You go, oh my gosh, I paid $7 for eggs. But your brain holds this idea of what eggs should cost based on your past. I remember when eggs were $1.29. I have a 35-year-old son. He said, Dad, I'm at that age where he's saying in his mind, I remember when I could get this meal deal for X amount of dollars. Okay. In reality, it's interesting. Reality doesn't match that memory. We get mad. We don't maybe not get mad, but we get irritated. And we like posts on social media and we share posts on social media and we go, oh my gosh, eggs. But you don't hear anybody going, oh my gosh, my car payment. This is like the 30th month I paid that car payment and I have 34 months left of that $712 car payment. We don't talk about that because it's a hidden cost. So psychological anchoring gives us that we're upset about that. So going back to the Montana, when I looked it up, Montana, like 0.01 of Montana had fires. 0.01. It's similar with the California fires. I don't want to minimize the fires because they hit, on the beach where we're familiar. I grew up in that area. But if you look at everything that was burnt, you look at the number of houses were burnt, and we're psychological anchored when we say 1,000 houses were burnt or we see the images. We don't know that it's a super tiny percent of houses in California, and it's a super tiny amount of acreage. Again, every house that's burnt, everybody that loses their house, and our house burnt down when I was almost 5. We lost everything. I didn't have any pictures of me when I was before 5. That's a whole nother story. But we anchor into those things. And that supposed price is always just based on memory. It's never based on information. It's never based on the current price of chicken feed. It's never based on the packaging, the rate or the packaging of those eggs or the cleaning of those eggs. Our psychological anchoring of egg prices never includes the shipping rate. It's only based on our memory, and that is only based on our memory of a time when they were not $7 an hour, $7 a dozen. And those memories are just based on what that little 3-pound muscle called the brain gives to you. But again, don't hear anybody saying, hey, remember when cars were $12,000? I mean, every once in a while we do. But again, we're not looking every week at our car payment going, wow, that $700 car payment divided by 4, I'm paying almost $200, that's something like $170, $180 every week just to drive this car, not including gas and everything like that, all the addition to that, okay, and insurance and repairs. Nope. We just keep moving the goalposts on big ticket items, okay? We just keep saying, hey, it was $12,000, then it was $20,000, now it's $29,000, now it's $30,000, now it's $42,000 or something around that area for a new car, and I'm used to that, but I really want the additions. I'm going to get the $60,000 car, so I'm going to make the adjustment in my brain because we have more time, and it's not sitting in front of us once or twice a week, nagging us Or like a chicken would be doing bark, 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 barking us. I think a chicken would be chickening us or something like that. But we find ways to justify those cars because we feel like we're making progress when we get a new car. We don't feel like we're making progress when we get another dozen of eggs, okay? In reality, those eggs are not eating up much of your budget, but that car note is eating up a huge amount of your budget. And if you want to be financially free, you've got to do the math and you've got to take every thought captive, and you have to not fall into this idea of anchoring and believing that the anchoring that you have is what is true. It's just your memory and it's just you shooting on those eggs. Number 5 is this perception that we have that necessities should remain the same, and it's okay if luxuries get more and more expensive. So eggs are basic, they're a necessity. I have to eat. I eat eggs, they're healthy. But a car, especially that fancy new one that I want, that's more of a choice. That's more of a choice that I'm going to give to myself. I don't need it, but I want it. And a lot of times we're more willing to pay for what we want rather than what we need. Okay, so I think that's an important distinction to make, is that eggs, food we need, cars, fancy cars, we do not need ever, okay? I hear people say a lot, well, I needed a car, and then they get into debt for a car, all right? And then they always suffer from that debt, but then they go and they blame eggs for why they don't have enough money, or food for why they don't have enough money. They could make better choices all week, all month, if they didn't have that really high car payment. Okay. Again, it's sitting back and being honest with ourselves. And I tell you what, again, that little 3-pound muscle up in your brain, stuck up in your cranium in that black box, it wants to make easy choices. It wants to agree with you. When you say, oh, this is too hard, it's like, it's too hard, it's not do it, because it knows it's going to take energy. But you can tell it, the person who you are, you can say, no, this is going to be hard, but this is going to be good. This is going to be really good for me. This is going to help me get financially free. This is going to help me lose weight. And that's how all change starts taking place, is when you tell your brain what to do. It's not exactly that way, okay? But when there's a necessity like an egg, like eggs, if there's a necessities like milk or power, price increases feel like we're being nickel and dime to death. So you're complaining, we complain about being nickel and dime to death, okay, where we don't even see we're being $100 billed to death over here with the high car payment. But a consequence of your choice, of course, and buying the eggs is the consequence of your choice. But again, you don't have a choice. You need to eat or you won't live very long. So here's the last one. I was going to put this one first because it seems like the most obvious to me when I first started thinking about this, because what I do is I like write stuff down in my notes, in my Google Notes, and I'm like, idea sort of thing. And then I start adding to it and I start thinking about it. And throughout the day, instead of scrolling social media, instead of doing certain things, I go and I plug in holes of what I'm doing. So then I'll read or listen to scripture throughout the day, and I'll be, oh, there's a scripture that goes with that. And then I start compiling just a bunch of stuff, but specific to eggs and why we've concentrated more on eggs in the last the new year than we have on our car payment. Okay, so this is the first thing I thought of, was amplification. It's just the power of social media. It amplifies things. And that's what's happening. You're saying, oh my gosh, I hate that this is going on. And then 3 days later, it's like, oh my gosh, I hate that this is going on. I don't know if you noticed, as soon as Trump started putting up people for his cabinet, we stopped seeing, like 90% of the stuff about the California fires went away. Even though there are still fires, there are still people suffering. There are still to this day. But its amplification is, this is the most important thing you should think about. This is the most important thing you should think about. This is the most important thing you should think about. And the truth is, the most important thing you should think about is what you're thinking about. It's how you're thinking. Not just what you're thinking, but how you're thinking. And then you include the Holy Spirit. You include scripture on that. But you make this stuff practical. And yes, pray for be concerned about. I watched a lot of the California fires because, again, I grew up in that area. I was very interested in following that. Every day I followed that, which normally I don't do that except for the Israeli war right now. I have followed that extensively. But it's amplification, and if you don't think the media is amplifying things to you, then you are foolish. You're foolish. You're foolish. I don't think you're ignorant. Ignorant would be I never knew that, but I think you're foolish if you're telling yourself, you're lying to yourself if you're saying social media is not shifting my focus from things I can control to things I can't control. Social media is changing my focus from the peace I can create in front of me, the peace I can make in front of me, and shifting my focus into the areas where I have no authority, where I have no position, where I have no influence to make any peace or any changes. So we post about the eggs of price, and boom, everybody chimes in. Why? Because misery loves company. We all like to complain together. Facebook's awesome with bringing in misery loves company, with bringing in complainers. But no one wants to post, hey, y'all, I probably shouldn't have signed up for this, $712 truck payment. Man, when I started I don't know why I'm talking this way. Probably because I've been listening to some country western music for the first time in my life, and I'm going to the rodeo. I don't know. But nobody's posting that, are they? Because that's not getting any likes. That's not being honest with, like, man, my truck payment and my oil and gas and my repairs and my insurance for my car, it's costing me $300 every week to drive this thing. It's costing me $45 every day to have this car. Okay? That's not getting any likes. So the noise around groceries gets louder while the weight of those big financial decisions that you've made stays quiet, private, and very often, usually, they remain unresolved. And that is no way to financial freedom. Financial freedom takes exposure. That doesn't mean post it on Facebook, but exposure to yourself, honesty, and some hard work of doing the right math. Over time, doing the math is going to help you be successful being financially free. And if you don't believe me, take a moment and ask God. You're asking God to be financially free. I think he's probably saying, hey, do some basic math. Hey, open up your numbers to a trusted friend. I've done that several times to younger people that I talk about my finances to, really have helped me a lot. In conclusion here, if you're feeling financial stress, if you're waiting on God to just swoop in and rescue you from the rising cost of life, he might. I don't think he will. I think he's telling you to do some stuff, and he does not want us asking him to do what he's asked us to already do, okay? Maybe it's time to ask, God, where am I focused? Where am I reacting emotionally instead of thinking wisely? And remember, thinking wisely always means acting upon that which we say we know is true. Because the truth is it's rarely the eggs breaking our budget. It's the unnoticed giants we welcomed in with open arms. We thought about it. We strategized about it. We wiggled the numbers a little bit for that car we couldn't quite afford. The extra subscriptions we forgot to cancel. The lifestyle upgrades we justified because we deserve it. Okay? That's the truth. And look, I believe that God cares about every part of our life, including our finances, maybe even especially our finances, because in our day and age, our finances are a reflection of the work that we've done and what we're bringing in fruit-wise. But sometimes breakthrough comes when we stop asking for God to rescue us and we start making better choices. I'm going to say that again. Sometimes breakthrough comes when we stop asking for a rescue and we start making better choices. So maybe, just maybe, the next time you hear yourself in your brain complaining about the price of eggs, take a step back, ask yourself, is the cost of eggs really my problem financially, or is this just the part that I'm willing to get mad about because it feels safe and easy to get mad about eggs rather than my car payment? What would happen if we brought the same passion we have for grocery store prices, for right now, the price of eggs, into the bigger picture of how we steward what we've been given. I think that's where the real change starts. All right. All right, my friends, that's all I got for you today. I hope I didn't break too many eggs. Hope I didn't stir things up too much. That's all the egg yolks I have. I hope I didn't, push your gas pedal too hard. Thanks for hanging out with me here at Design Your Life and or the Journey Life to be determined someday in the future. There's no rush on that, but you just keep learning together, growing together, taking that next step into the life that we really want and into really the best things that God has for us. All right. God bless y'all.